Welcome back, weary travelers, to another installment in the ongoing franchise that is Dwayne Johnson in a jungle-themed movie. Hey movie fans, so I just saw Jungle Cruise, another attempt by Disney to revitalize a popular attraction to film franchise that worked really well for Pirates of the Caribbean and then immediately went downhill after that. Less we said about Haunted Mansion the better.
Yeah, I got a few objections.
Now where we are at with Jungle Cruise, this often delayed, poor movie. This feels like it was supposed to come out years ago. Jungle Cruise. Now, off the top, I love the attraction. It is the king of bad puns, and that is near and dear to my heart. The worse a joke is, the better it is, if you know what I mean. So I was kind of going into this with massive hesitancy just because the trailers just kind of seemed They kind of look like a Mummy ripoff in terms of you have a very strong female British character who needs to hire a rough and tumble, good-looking scoundrel to work with her and her mischievous brother to find some treasure. It's basically just the Mummy. So I was kind of apprehensive. But at the end of the day, I'm a big treasure hunt, adventure, swashbuckling, hero, epic, old school type movie fan. So I was kind of going into this hoping for just a straight swashbuckling fun adventure, and that's exactly what I got out of this. It is nothing special, but it's still a lot of fun. I had quite a bit of fun with this, more than I expected to. Yes, it still does end up being a massive Mummy ripoff. It's like take some parts of the Mummy, take some parts of Pirates of the Caribbean, kind of mash them together. It works for the most part. So there's plenty of good, there's some bad. So let's go over it all. The great thing about this is the bad puns are there. You're gonna roll your eyes in the first third of this movie, and to me, that's beautiful. I love bad puns so much. So if you're a diehard fan of the ride, you're gonna recognize some of these bad puns. And now, the backside of water. There are all these Easter eggs and references to the ride, which is great. However, once the adventure starts going, we really don't get a lot of references to the ride after that point, which I kind of understand why they're doing that, because not everyone has been on the ride in either Disneyland or Disney World, so you gotta appeal to a mass audience. I kind of wish we had a little bit more references to the original, but the first third of it did a really good job with those jokes, and also having a really fun tempo. It was very upbeat and fast for the first third of it, and then it started to lose me, but we'll get to that in the negatives. Continuing with some positives, the cast in this, the ones that are utilized correctly, are having a ton of fun. The Rock and Emily Blunt have fantastic chemistry together. You could tell why they were so hyped up to promote this movie, just because you can tell that they're having the time of their lives during this movie. And I believe his name is Jack Whitehall, is Emily Blunt's brother in this movie. I worried going into this that he'd be the really obnoxious, annoying character, and at times he's a little bit grating, but he wasn't nearly as obnoxious and annoying as I feared he would be. However, I said characters that were utilized correctly are good, because there's quite a few in this that I don't think are. Jesse Plemons plays the main villain, some German soldier. I did not like his character. I was not into it. The bigger crime here is Paul Giamatti's in this, and he is utterly and completely wasted. He's almost like a tertiary villain in this, and he's so forgettable through no fault of his own. It's just a poorly written and poorly executed character that honestly does not need to be in this movie whatsoever. Continuing with some positives though, the music is outstanding. James Newton Howard of The Dark Knight fame just absolutely crushes it here. It feels very much like a throwback of like an Indiana Jones, Romancing the Stone type of big sweeping music that is great. Could be turned down a little bit in some of the adventure moments so we can hear the dialogue a little bit better, but the music is great. I'll probably be listening to it for the next few days, just kind of reliving some of the great music that I heard in the theater. Getting to some negatives here though. I understand that this movie was delayed quite a few times due to the thing that shall not be named, which kind of gives me pause of going, okay, you had all this delays for this movie, yet your CGI is as bad as it is? A lot of this movie depends on the CGI, whether it's the main villains are some kind of conquistador characters that look like they got ripped out of the reject pile from Pirates of the Caribbean sequels. They do not look good at all. They blatantly look CG, and they have creatures coming out of them like snakes and bees and insects, and they are not convincing. I don't do snakes, but I can handle these because I'm just going, oh, those don't look very good. There's also a cheetah character. He's a supporting character. He's on the crew. We've seen good CG animals before in Jungle Book and Lion King in live action form recently. This was not it. It's not awful CG, but we've seen a lot better in recent memory, and so that kind of took me out of it. The CG, I think, really hurt this movie, and I think my biggest negative for the movie is the final third. I don't really think it sticks the landing. This movie runs at about 2 hours. If this was about an hour 45 and they shaved off some part of the ending and some part of the tail end of the 2/3 mark, right around there, I think this could have been a lot tighter and a lot better. It's not a bad movie at all. I had quite a bit of fun. This is old school swashbuckling adventure. If you like The Mummy, think of an off-brand version of that, and that's kind of what you're getting with this movie. But by and large, it was a very fun yet flawed movie. I was glad I saw it in the theaters. It was a good, fun time. The cast is absolutely having the time of their lives. The music's phenomenal. CG is a little bit wonky. The story kind of falls apart in the final third. Just kind of going, okay, well, that doesn't really work with that, without that. Like, if you can suspend your logic for the final third of it, it's pretty good. As a whole, this was a little bit better than I expected, and it always will scratch that itch for me of treasure hunting movies. Obviously, here at Uncharted Media, we like treasure and adventure and action and looking for the unknown. If you like all those different elements, or this movie even slightly intrigues you, then I'd say check it out. If you're not interested in it, I'd say you might want to check it out once this hits Disney Plus for free in a few months, because by and large, I think it's fun. Not the best movie of the year, but okay. If you're a fan of the Jungle Cruise ride, might be up your alley. If you're a fan of The Rock, probably up your alley. As a whole, not bad. Well, what do you guys think about Jungle Cruise? Let me know in the comments below. I always like hearing from you guys. And as always, if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel or subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Just search Uncharted Media and you'll find us there. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.